So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and today I'm joined in the couch by Hands of Kalliach, and they're a band from Edinburgh. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. And they are going to put out their second album this Friday, the 23rd. And the name, I know I can't pronounce the name really very good, but I'll say it soon. So I have here the band. So the band is husband and wife, and we're here to talk all about this. So first of all, how are you tonight?
Awesome. Thanks very much for having us, Hector. Yeah, much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks. So for people that don't know Hands of Kalliach, tell us, your name and what you do in the band.
Yeah, sure. You want to go first?
So we're Hands of Kalliach, and I am Sophie, and I do vocals, and I do the bass.
And I'm John, and I do the male vocals and the guitars and do the drums as well. Although we've kind of changed things up now. We've got a couple of recruits in to do our live shows with us for a lead guitar and a drummer perspective. But all the stuff on the album is just the two of us. Yeah.
No, it's great, and I like it how you say you do male vocals. You do the pissed off vocals.
I do the nice, friendly vocals.
Yeah,
You'd be surprised though.
Like,
I'm the evil one, really.
Yeah, on the album there's like a song and Sophie singing and then you go like. So
yeah.
So I don't know much about Mythology, but with the press release for your record, we got like a huge PDF explaining all the mythology. So I was going through it. I'm like, this is like a book.
Yeah, I got too much time on the hands sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but it's good because for people who don't know like what the record is about, obviously it's like a concept record because it follows like all the songs follows the myth of the Kalliach. And so she lives in a place, and I didn't know this, but I did the research. So this is the third largest whirlpool in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you say it? How do you say it?
A Corryvreckan, yeah.
Corryvreckan. Yeah, I know it's difficult to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw, and I'm like, yeah, it looks cool because there's, I don't know, which ones are the first and second whirlpool, because I didn't know that, but it looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of, I think one's in Norway, and I can't remember where the other one is, but yeah, it's pretty massive when it gets going. But we actually went up there last summer by boat to go and see it when it was calm, because during sort of low or high tide it can get really very, very wild, as you can imagine. But other times it's actually really calm, and so calm people can actually kayak or even swim across it. So we went up just to go and see the site, and you can see the swirling undercurrents as it starts to get going, and it was pretty wild, wasn't it? It was really almost eerie in terms of...
it's a really, I'd say eerie is a good word. It's really it's really choppy, but also really kind of the water goes in lots of different directions, which I've never really seen before, and it feels really like you could just be sucked down into an enormous hole, be lost forever. Which is really fun.
It's that tells me that you're not Hispanic. Because Hispanic people would get the fuck out of there.
And that's why they're wise, and us Scots are really
we'll be like, nope, we're not staying near the automatic whirlpool. I'm guessing that gets when it's does it get like more violent like near winter time where it's colder?
Yeah, it gets a lot more violent in winter. So that was actually kind of the sort of themes behind the album and behind the previous album, which was Samhain, which is the sort of Celtic festival of winter. That was actually the precursor to Halloween. So Halloween only kind of adopted the date off the back of the pagan sort of Samhain, right? And so the Kalliach figure was supposed to be arising from the whirlpool when the whirlpool was really making a lot of noise, when it was roaring in the sort of depths of the start of winter, really. And that was the sort of catalyst, if you like, for all of winter to erupt, which was when it was really going and really being, 20-foot high waves churning around each other, rather than some of the more benign weather that you can, sail through in summer. Yeah.
It has to be interesting to look at that when the whirlpool, obviously from a like an airplane or something that you're not in the water. But the mythology, I found it, it's pretty interesting. And the cool thing about the countries that you live in is that you have a lot of like cool stuff to sing about, like mythology wise. Like in Puerto Rico, we can sing about hurricanes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the hurricanes are pretty metal,
that's
right?
amazing.
I mean, that's
Yes, they suck, let me tell you.
Oh no, I mean, yeah, definitely, but lot to sing about for sure.
Yeah, we have a good metal scene here. So I listened to the album and the music video for the second track. I just saw the music video. Where did you film that? Because that forest is pretty beautiful, and you have like there's like an old lady in the video that I'm like, is that Kalliach? Or because I read because that song in particular has a lot. It has like a huge paragraph explaining the meaning. Maybe you can explain, the making of the video and everything.
So it was filmed in Oban, which is the west coast, and it's absolutely beautiful. So the drive there, I think every time you look out the window, it's like, oh my God, this view is just too much. It's so beautiful. And it was a really kind of perfect day, really stormy, really rainy, really cloudy, really atmospheric. And we were filming all day. The film crew had asked a local, had put up a request in a local group for just, does anyone fancy coming along filming and being a crone for a day? And so many people on this local Facebook group replied and was like, they were like tagging their mates, like, oh, Audrey, you should be this crone. It was really funny. And then eventually they found Vivian, who was our crone for the day. She was incredible. She was a professionally trained actor, which we're obviously not, and she was amazing. She came with all her own costume and her makeup done, and she was amazing. She was really incredible.
She really sold that part to me. I was like,
so good.
I'm like, I don't want to meet this woman in a forest.
There's bad things gonna happen, right? Yeah, absolutely. She was fantastic.
She really was.
And the directors were absolutely amazing as well. Like David and James, just they just knew exactly how they'd want to shoot it. They like you read into the mythology, and they really got into the vibe of it, and really had thought out how they wanted to sequence it. And it was just like 6 straight hours of just go shoot. It was really, really fun. It was the first time we'd ever done like a proper music video. But
because I was looking on YouTube, and I think that's the only like music video that I found. But it looks like a movie. And I got a question for you guys. Did you dress? Were you dressed like that going to the car to the shoot, or did you dress when you got there?
We were, and when we went for pee before we had to get to the place, that we had to come out in full costume and be like,
Hello. Did people look at you strange? Like, I imagine you're going in a restroom dressed like that. People are like, okay,
and also it's in the middle of nowhere, so everyone knows each other, and we're just these kind of strangers arriving in like weird,
pretty dramatic,
dark
costumes.
Maybe they thought you guys were like starting a cult or something.
Oh, for sure they thought we were starting a cult.
Or tourists. Or very misinformed tourists. One of the two.
But the costume looked great. And you,
thanks very much.
Let me tell you, for you guys saying that you're not actors, you really acted the shit out of that video.
That's awesome.
Like, when I was looking at you, I'm like you could have totally been in the Viking series.
Yes, I know. I'm pretty sure actually, I think John does have Viking blood. Our daughter is she's super blonde, and she just looks like a Viking warrior.
Slightly feral.
Totally feral. So I think you've got Viking.
Oh, who knows? But no, it was
my son is blonde with blue eyes. but he doesn't look anything like me. But I just call him the Puerto Rican Brad Pitt.
Yeah, nice.
I love that. That's great.
But
That's
it's,
great.
it's cool that, you're husbands and wife and you get to do this project together. So I saw part of the other interview, and I know that you started this in lockdown. So had you played in bands before starting this project?
Yeah, I'd played quite a bit in my sort of late teens and sort of early 20s, but then for a whole bunch of reasons, I'd just not really played in my late and sort of early 20s at all. And you hadn't, I mean, you'd
No.
played instruments, but you'd never
Yeah,
played live.
I played acoustic guitar for years, but I'd never played live, never played in a band. Yes, it's all very new, all very new to me. And I only started playing bass in lockdown. We were kind of jamming around, so it's all quite new for me.
But yeah, we hadn't really done much in a long time, and it was just a really good chance for us to, a really good prompt for us to do something creative on that side, I guess, because I think otherwise life just kind of, gets in the way when you're able to go out and about, but when you're stuck inside for months on end, you
I
look for things
started
to
the
do, right?
channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
with
Awesome.
COVID,
There we
so-
go. Yeah.
It's
Fantastic.
really interesting. A few interviewers we've kind of said that, and I think that's kind of cool that out of something so, such a crazy time, so many people like turn to creativity and are still going with their projects. I think that's
really cool.
amazing.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
really cool.
No, it's cool. And so you having children, and me being a parent myself, maybe I can relate, because even though I do all this and you do albums, they still think we suck.
I know. What do we have to do to be cool?
Yeah, I tell my daughter I'm interview bands, and she's like, okay.
Yeah, whatever. Could be like, I'm going to space. I'm going to, I'm going to the moon, and they'd be like, oh God,
space is so passe, so lame. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but you can show them, the music video, and they'll be like,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
That is exactly how they respond.
Pretty much,
Yeah.
except for the oldest.
Yeah.
The oldest is pretty cool. She's kind of a little bit gothy, a little bit rocky herself.
Yeah.
So she's into the darker things, which is great. But yeah, the other two don't want to know us. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
So you're in lockdown and you decide, yeah, let's do this project. Did you ever think, because you did the first album and now you got signed to Prosthetic Records, which is, it's a very well-known record label. So tell me about the process of getting signed to Prosthetic Records.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we're still kind of blown away by how it's gone over the past. I mean, it's only really been sort of 3 and a bit years, because it was only like late 2020 we actually properly kicked off. And if we'd thought then that we'd be sitting here 3 and a bit years later, signed to Prosthetic, with our second album coming out, I think we'd have told ourselves to bugger off. That's complete nonsense. But I think it was just it was honestly just, we didn't expect to get such a positive reaction from like our initial EP, which was a 5-track one that we just did at home. So I'd done sound engineering for a year at college, and so I had a reasonable understanding of the processes. But like listening back to it now, I really don't like the overall mix. But it was just a bit of fun, right? It was like 5 tracks, and we'd had the idea of building a different lens and a different approach to folk metal, where the folk aspects are really mostly played on the guitar rather than on bagpipes or violins or whatever else it might be that you would more associate with normal folk metal. And it was just an idea that we'd been chatting through and thought, that would be quite cool to make it a bit more of an aggressive folk metal sort of flavor that you tend not to see quite so much of as much as you'd see more of the sort of traditional folk metal sort of power sort of folk side of things. But it just got a surprisingly good reception, and I guess like a big part of it has just been the feedback we've had to really keep it going, and a lot of encouragement from fans and writers and like reviewers like yourself as well, just providing us with that motivation to keep it going. And then we got picked up by Trepanation Recordings, which was like a UK underground label. They put out our EP on CD and on tapes and things like that, which was awesome. And then they also did our full-length Samhain, which came out in 2021. And then when we were working up for this one, we'd said to the label owner there, Dan, really, really great guy, okay, what do you think? Are you fancy putting this one out as well. And he said, guys, look, he's such a nice guy. He said, I think you should try and push this to a bigger label. I think this has got legs. I think you could take this somewhere and people would actually want to go for it, because you've sold really well from Samhain and you've actually had a much bigger attraction. And so we did, and we only emailed like 3 labels initially, and Prosthetic was at the top of the list because we're both Prosthetic fans ourselves in the first place. And Steve there, who's their A&R guy, actually got back to us within like 2 hours of sending the email. And it turned out that he had bought one of the first and only 50 CDs that were ever made for our EP, because he'd followed Trepanation recordings and he liked our sound there, and he'd kind of kept the CD and been following us quietly ever since. And he was like, look, I love it. Yeah, I'm really keen to get you guys on, which was just awesome. Like, we can believe it that, we had a fan who was an A&R guy with a big label. And so they had to, he said to do things by committee over there. So he had to go and share it around the owners and the other sort of PR team and make sure everyone was on board. But they got back to us like that day. Just being like,
something that I like about the project is first of all, the duality of the vocals, because you have the harsher with the cleaner vocals, and the mythology is pretty interesting. When you were thinking of the concept for this record, how did you come about the concept of the Kalliach-Interview-Corryvreckan-Out?
Yeah, you want to do that one, or should I do it?
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, I guess with the Corryvreckan, it was kind of a natural continuity of the themes we'd worked with Samhain, because Samhain was the start of winter and really tied in with that Kalliach figure. It seemed like to be quite a naturally sensible point to tie in as a theme for our first album as the beginning of winter. And then as we were kind of thinking, okay, what do we want to focus on? What themes do we want to bring in for the second album? And the more that we'd had feedback around like the sort of churn of our sort of vocal styles and our sort of, real thick guitar layers and things like that, the more we were kind of thinking this matches, and our sound is kind of matching the idea of a whirlpool sometimes. And that duality, as you mentioned as well, is very much something that features in that Kalliach mythology. So she's variously depicted as being this really malign, dangerous, destructive force that brings a lot of death and violence at the start of winter. But she also is, in other stories, portrayed as this really pro-nature, protective, nurturing deity as well. And I think that duality, as you touch on with the vocal styling, is really matched up with what we were trying to do musically. So really blend that really heavy melodic death metal bass with like Soph's vocals and some of those lighter folk elements, and really have a lot more of the dynamics going on, which would kind of pair with that. And then the Corryvreckan Whirlpool, like we found when we went up there last summer, and it was calm, albeit eerie, but then it also gets to a very violent tempest in the winter, as you say, when you get to the tides as well. So I think dynamics and that contrast is really what we really ride on more than anything else.
So I'm sure no one can scuba dive there.
I wouldn't advise it. Yeah.
No, I scuba dive, but if there's two, I don't think
they go down and they end up in Puerto Rico.
They go and then So I like the story of her, because mythology, like it sounds, when you were saying the nicer version, I just thought of Elsa from Frozen.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think they ripped off some of that stuff, actually, didn't they? Like,
Disney,
sure.
I know it is exactly.
Everything that Disney does is a ripoff of everything. So
that's it.
It's so it is totally the
because and the modern stories are not as cute. Like in The Little Mermaid, the original story, the mermaid dies.
Yeah, that's what we found.
Imagine showing that to your kids, and at the end, oh, the mermaid dies, and they would be like, no, the mermaid doesn't die. On this one, she does.
But in Disney, all the parents die. It's
just like the standard approach.
That is true.
Every single Disney movie, the
every
parents
single
die.
Disney movie,
just let some of them live. You know.
Yeah, in many ways, Disney's the darkest writers of them all, really, because every time the parents must die.
The parents
It's
die.
pretty
Yes,
Kids
that's
are
like a
freaked
thing.
out on their
Parents
own.
must die on
Yeah.
everything. Like,
Right. You've got to struggle early,
Yeah,
Make
exactly.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know, because when I saw that movie with my kids, and they
Oh.
remember the music, the soundtrack,
Yeah.
because they make me put that on the car. And when that the feeling Frozen comes, when the boat from their parents, he's like, that's when the parent dies. I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Kids are dark though, I think. They
Oh
love
my
They love a spooky
they love
story
a
for
spooky
sure.
story.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if it's if it's too fluffy, they're not interested. If it's dark and creepy, they absolutely love
they
it.
want it more. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this, I can play your music for my kids.
Yeah,
to see,
exactly.
Yeah.
to see
See if
what
they
they
dig it.
think.
Yeah, yeah.
And creepiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you were picking the song to do a video, uh, how did you make the decision for Fell Rains? I know it's a great song, and I think it's a song where you have all the elements that that make the band Hand of Kalliach. You have the clean singing, you have the epicness, you have some great guitar on it. So was that a conscious decision that this had to be the single?
Yeah, pretty
I
much.
think that's it. And it's good and atmospheric and
Yeah. The other one you liked was, well, it was between that and track 4, which is Kalliach-Interview-Corryvreckan-Out, which is like a big sort of sea monster mythology piece, which we love.
would have been really cool, but very, very different, probably a
Very different
video.
vibe, yeah, and didn't really like you say, it maybe wouldn't have touched on all the mythology aspects that we wanted to get in for the overall vibe for both the band and the album. Like we love track 4, we love Kalliach-Interview-Corryvreckan-Out. Like it was probably our favorite, it's definitely your favorite of the album.
Yeah.
But just for a visualization and for a video, Fell Rains sort of stood out as probably the more bombastic sort of opener that would kind of work with exactly as you say, with bringing out all the elements of the mythology that would translate really well to a story, rather than a gigantic sea monster, which is going to be very hard to portray in any sort of meaningful way without spending a lot of money.
Expensive is probably
exactly. So we'll do that for the next album.
Unless we made it ourselves, like Bugsy being in front of that monster.
Yeah. So when you guys write, what's your process like for writing lyrics?
I guess we usually start with the tune itself, which we've actually got a year-old acoustic guitar downstairs that we just use. Like, we've got all the electrics like upstairs, but it's just when we're looking after the kids downstairs, we're just sort of sitting with this battered old acoustic and just try and like build the leads on that one and make sure that it works and it sounds like folky, but still something you could play on the guitar and still with a lot of energy and a lot of aggression to it. And then from there, depending on the tune that we've kind of worked up, we'll then try and match some of the concepts or some aspects of the mythology to the song or the energy of that song and see what we can build from there. I mean, we definitely write with the overall concept in mind, because pretty much everything in Corryvreckan is tied to the Whirlpool or to the Kalliach one way or the other.
Because she lives down there.
That's right. Exactly. So
I read the mythology,
Yeah, absolutely. So but that's how we kind of just build it up from there. And then once we've got the leads and once we've got your sort of vocals and we've got our sort of back and forth in terms of the harshes and the cleans, and we've got those sections worked out, then that's the only part where we'll then start building out things like the actual rhythm guitar and then the bass and the drums and things like that. That all comes at the end, which is maybe a bit of a back to front way of doing it, certainly from when I used to play in metal bands when I was younger. You would start with a beefy riff, like a low beefy riff, and be like, yeah, that's a great beefy riff to build a song around. But every time we've tried to do it for this project, it doesn't work, because the riff doesn't really work with the melodies and those sort of higher folky sort of bagpipey or violin or accordion styled sort of riffs. So yeah, it's a different way of writing for sure. Yeah.
Good. I'm just glad you didn't name none of your albums "Winter is Coming."
Still time.
Oh no.
We didn't tell you that.
I watched that damn show, and for 10 seasons they're like, winter is coming. I'm like, when the fuck is it coming? I've been watching this show for 10 years, and
Yeah.
every oh, it's coming. When is it coming? Like,
Then it lasts like 10 minutes of one
last
episode.
one,
oh my,
yeah.
and it lasts, yeah, all that
10
build up for like
Oh.
one episode, and you're
Yeah,
like,
It's-
what?
yeah.
that was it.
But yeah, let's talk about the artwork, because yeah, the artwork is really cool. Here we have the artwork. Yeah, it looks, yeah, the Corryvreckan. You know, I like it because you see like the whirlpool, and it looks like there's like you see the snake creature that you were mentioning. So who worked on this artwork?
So this was a guy, V Kovalenko. He goes by from. We found him on Fiverr actually, which is like a sort of freelancer sort of marketplace, kind of like eBay for creative types. It's fantastic. We've had so much really cool artwork done there, and you get such interesting and diverse artists there with such really crazy portfolios. And he really got what we were working for. We loved his really sort of fantastical, fantasy focused sort of artwork and styles, but they were all quite, well, a lot of them had like quite a dark edge to them, which was exactly what we were wanting to bring out within the artwork. And yeah, we gave him a massive brief, you know, much like the one that you got with the lyrics, details, and the background to the song and all the rest of it. But he absolutely nailed it. I mean, we did work on it fairly intensively back and forwards, but yeah, we're really happy with the final product. Yeah,
no, and it goes with the music and the themes that you touch on the record. So yeah, I think it's important. Yeah, I don't want to talk all about lyrics, because I think you want the listener to maybe interpret the lyrics. It can be interpreted in different ways because mythology, you know, can be interpreted different ways. But I think maybe a lot of people like this type of music, you know, because it's, you know, it's concept records are hard. Plus, I think the dualities of the vocals sell it. So yeah, I quite enjoyed it, and I enjoyed listening about that mythology, because I had no idea about that mythology and about the whirlpool. So I found it very interesting concept.
Much.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, so what are the plans for Hand of Kalliach right now? I know the album comes out this Friday, February 21st. So what are the immediate plans once the album is released? Because I know being a parent like yourself, I know that it's not easy to do a show or do a program when you have kids.
Yeah.
That's our kind of struggle that we're going through at the moment, but we're kind of working hard towards doing live shows. I think that's our next big goal, and we're kind of really working on it. So practicing a lot and getting time together as a band.
Yeah.
That's the future goal.
Yeah.
That's the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and in Europe, the good thing is that you're in Europe. This type of metal, like, it's really appreciated, I think, in Europe, and I think people there like all types of metal. I think in the States, it's more like close-minded, like what type of metal like gets played. Here in Puerto Rico, yeah, no, we listen to a lot of stuff. So, but yeah, so I would recommend the album to anyone that likes, you know, I would say there's progressive elements on this album.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
progressive,
Yeah.
because like sometimes when people hear the word folk, they're gonna think it's gonna be like like
That's it.
Yeah, that is a challenge that we have sometimes.
like no, it does
right.
not sound like the Leprechaun is coming, you know, because there's some bands that overdo it. No, I think it's very more subtle. Like it's there, but I think there's a lot of like progressive metal with death metal. So I think it's a good blend, because it's not, well, because they sometimes people put folk and they're gonna think like there's flutes on every song or stuff like that.
Yeah,
absolutely. But no, there's more elements to it. So so I'm very curious, you know, like for you guys, before you like started the band and everything, like what bands or like what musicians type of music do you mostly enjoy to listen when you're, you know, just chilling on your couches?
Yeah, I think we've got a really varied mix between us. Well, I mean, I think like for me, it's either extreme metal or it's like really floaty, tinkly, ambient sort of
Yeah.
stuff. Like
You like a lot of ambient stuff, I think,
yeah,
don't you?
yeah, absolutely. Like it's
Mm.
just the way it just works from my head. But it's a real problem if we've ever got like people over, because I don't have anything
true.
like middle of the road playlist whatsoever. Everyone's
Maybe
either like
shoegaze?
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes that sort of stuff. Yeah, like honestly,
Yeah.
it's just it balances me out, right? It's either going to be like really intense or really, really relaxed. You just take the piss and say it's like spa music. Yeah, yeah. And you're a lot more into more of the indie sort of stuff sometimes, and then
Yeah.
or like some of the stoner stuff you've been liking a lot more recently.
Like I just love like a gorgeous female vocalist who does really, you know, high notes. Really, I'd love yeah, I get a lot of inspiration from those sorts of artists. I love lots of Scottish bands.
Yeah, we like a bit of traditional folk as well.
Yeah, traditional
which is
folk,
great,
like all
yeah.
kinds of
Yeah.
a real mix, I'd say.
Yeah. And I think that really helps with the writing process as well, because we don't really feel constrained too much to be like, right, it has to sound just like this.
Yeah.
It can be a little more
Maybe
creative
when
and
you
wild.
when you do a show, you can end at the end. Just put some ambient music so everyone
Yeah,
So
yeah,
everyone
yeah,
can chill.
yeah, exactly.
Just
All right,
relax.
everyone, just
Take
take a
it
moment.
home.
Yeah, exactly.
Now,
Have a whiskey.
relax, think you're in a spa and everything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But I can get it because you can't listen all the time to extreme music, but you go from one extreme to the to the
Yeah.
like I think there's a playlist in Spotify like that you would like, it's called Sleep.
All right. Yeah, I'll need to
It's
check it
like
out.
that
Yeah,
type of
yeah.
music that you can like chill and sleep to.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the type of music. So so I want to thank you guys for taking some time of your
Thanks very much, Hector. Much
night to
appreciated.
chat
Yeah.
with me about the album. Obviously, being a parent myself, I can understand. So, John, Sophie, it's been great having you on the couch with me, and hopefully, more people will get into Hand of Kalliach when it comes out this Friday. I'm gonna post the link so people can get the
Awesome.
vinyl.
Amazing.
Oh, that's
Amazing.
great. Thank
That's
you so much.
fantastic.
Thanks so much for
Yeah.
having us.
Yeah, massive thanks, Hector. Great to meet you.
Yeah, yeah.
Have a
Great to
great
meet you
one.
too. So, people, until next time, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.